Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Music Made Me podcast. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We really appreciate the support. Today we're sitting down with rock frontman Norman Matthew. He's had a really interesting journey. He started when he was young in his parents' basement playing music. He has played with some very successful bands, and he left the music industry for about 2 years completely. Didn't even listen to music, really just listened to podcasts. But he has returned rejuvenated and ready to rock with his new project, As Strange as Angels. So please enjoy our conversation with Norman Matthew. Today is pretty exciting. I know this is going to air in a couple of weeks, but you have your new video premiering tonight, right?
Yeah, man. You know what? Crazy excited about it for all kinds of reasons. One, to be able to just in these, you hear it all the time now, these unprecedented times, right? But to be able to press forward and still be creative and do your thing is like so crazy amazing. And it's the first video I've ever directed.
Yeah, you're adding another hat,
ever.
right?
You
have
which
so
is
many hats already. Now you're just putting another one way up here.
right. Well, what's funny about it, man, is that I've been fortunate enough to work with great directors over the years that you kind of just, you sit under their learning tree and you learn stuff, right? Without even really realizing it. But when it's your own thing, it's hard enough to produce your own music when you do that, which I work with a great production team for that reason. You can't get out of yourself. And then you're like, okay, let's throw the added element on of now we've got to direct our own video. And you're like, I hate photo shoots. I hate doing all that kind of stuff. I'm so anti-frontman. It's weird, right? If you know me, you're like, I'm extremely extroverted and social. But when it comes to trying to be look at me and these cool things I do, I'm like, I hide. It's weird.
Right.
It's the weirdest thing because I can feel it on stage. You walk out and you're like, you want to bang it and be like, yeah. And then I'm like, I just want to play. But so getting in front of a camera nonetheless, and then having to watch all your endless hours of footage and how do we make this cool and how do we tell a story? I mean, it was something that I'd never done. And I worked with a great editor from Sweden actually called MVS Visual. And they really, my buddy really helped us kind of put that whole vibe together, man. So it's exciting for me too, because it was something I'd never done, right? So when you've been doing it for so long, I mean, I've been doing music since I was 13, man, professionally, literally. So when you've done it for so long, you have to find different ways to get yourself excited. So it's cool to do this,
And there's a lot of emotion in the song. So were you focused on creating a video that matched that emotion as well?
Absolutely. Like I said, it was real artsy fartsy for me in the sense that I'm like, okay, the curse is about when your demons kick, you kick back. When life kicks you, you kick back, right? And I was like, okay, how can we, so some of it, is we're trying to tell the story through the people in the video, right? And so we've got each kind of feel, so to speak. Everyone in the video is essentially representing a different story, and they're telling their story through the video or through the imagery or through the whatever, and at the end though, everyone comes through it. It's kind of the deal. Big part with the characters in the videos is that it's everyone from every walk of life. And that's something we wanted to represent too. We wanted to be empowering and somehow make a powerful statement, about, individuality and how important everyone is in this world in their own ways. So everything was just made from none of us really knowing what to do other than creating a message. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's sometimes the best way it works, right? If you go in with too much of a plan, then you kind of get in your own head, right? And you're focused on that exact thing that you're trying to do. And if it doesn't go that way, then you, like I say, you kind of get in your own head and it goes sideways real quick sometimes.
Totally. I tried to set up a storyboard and I was like, I'm gonna be real smooth about this, right? We'd work with this great director, Michael Carter, and he would come in with these notebooks of just each scene. And I remember learning that from him. And then it was yeah, I'm never going to be able to keep to that because I'm too spastic as it is. You know what I mean? Or
Right,
if I don't get it right, then I freak out. I'm like, oh my God, now I failed myself. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So the whole thing was kind of let's just throw that out the window, man. Whatever. and let's just hit it.
And is that kind of the way you've been your entire life, sort of that way, or early on were you a little more focused on, this is what needs to be done, this is what I need to do, this is how I need to do it to get to where I want to be?
I think with the how I wanted to get into the end zone and what I needed to do to get into the end zone, it was always like, this is my end zone, I got to get there. But I called all the plays all the way through, just as things would happen. You know what I mean? Because if we had followed even with the strangest angels in the path we were on, I mean, when COVID hit, like, it derailed everything we were doing. I mean, we were about to walk into some cool festival offers, summer tours. I mean, the band was just like, we're coming off 2 Billboard Rock Top 40s. It was like, dude, the jetpack was strapped on, right? Like, it was just a matter of time. And thank you all for supporting it, by the way. And then it just, when COVID hit, it was like, we didn't even know what to do. And I guess having that kind of like never surrender type mentality, was like, okay, all right, throw this at me, I'll just go this way. Like, basically, you're gonna have to kill me to make it stop. Otherwise, like, we're gonna roll. You know what I mean? And so I guess I've kind of always taken that approach to a lot of stuff, and especially with this Strange Angel stuff. From being in music for so long, it was like, you know what? I'm gonna trust in my production team. Jimmy and Dawson, they're amazing, which was huge for me because, being a lead singer, you naturally have like a little diva thing going on because you've got a vision, and never mistake vision for drive, right? Vision for driven, right? But sometimes it can get skewed along the way in how you present it, right? So for me, I was like, you know what? On all of this, I'm gonna just follow the signs of life that life are throwing me, and for the first time, just like calm down and enjoy the situation that I'm in, right? So whatever it is, it was fun. I mean, even to the point where I remember Michelle and I were doing some shows early on, and it was like, dude, I even enjoy load in and sound check just because I'm so grateful to like have the opportunity to do it with a new project, right? That it's like, I don't even care, man. It's just,
That's awesome.
I can't wait for load in.
So is that the same feeling, like you say you started like professionally when you were 13, 14? So was that almost that same feeling you had when you first started out, that all of a sudden it came back to you?
Yeah, and I'm glad you actually kind of pieced that together. Along the way, man. So when I started really young, and our family's in the business too, and it was
So what did
like,
your parents do? Sorry to cut you off, but
no, I mean, they weren't like I mean, they played music. My dad's a pharmacist. My mom's like, she was a teacher and a juvenile court judge for fun
oh,
and all
okay.
kinds of stuff. But they played music. But like my brother and I, and my cousin and I, like we all, my brother plays in this band, Dorothy. He was a touring guitarist for John Fogerty. We've got a cousin who plays in the Rascal Flatts. So it's like
Oh,
all of this
nice.
is kind of like
Wow.
hung over. Oh yeah, it's crazy, right? So all of us have like, it's just kind of been a thing, right? And I tell people, sometimes you don't choose music, it chooses you, because it's like, there's been so many times where I'm like, I'm gonna go be a barber, I'm gonna go quit, I'm gonna do this, forget the business, man, it sucks, I hate the hustle, right?
Yep.
But I love the creative, I don't love the business side of it, right?
Right.
um and so I remember missing that, being 13 and being in my mom's basement and getting to play with older musicians in our scene, because I had the skills, and like my friends just were like not into it. They're like, dude, let's play Sad But True again. And I'm like, no, for the 30th time. I love that song, but like, I want to get out there and do my thing, right?
Right.
And so I missed that, just very, I guess, innocent, didn't understand the business, wasn't doing it for isn't any business reasons, like not even trying to get the chicks or something, right? It was just like, dude, I just want to get on a stage and rock out, and I don't even care who's there. And I missed having that feeling, because once, I mean, I'm not complaining, I've been lucky enough to make a career in music for myself, right? But along the way, your blinders then get on that aspect of it, right? You're like, okay, it's business now. It's not called music fun, it's music business. And so you get so wrapped up in it that you kind of forget how to get out of that, And so for me, I really wanted to get out of that and just really get into that excited feeling again, which is why I opened myself up to, let's do everything new. You know what? Never directed a video. Let's do it, because I feel like excited. No, man, I've never plowed through hours of video and messed with editing software. This is going to be fun, right? I'm like, because I
Nice.
see everyone else agonize over it, and I'm like, and they know what they're doing. So I'm like, oh my God, like, but it made me excited again in the same ways that I didn't know how to record a demo in my mom's basement, but I would still put up egg cartons and get like cardboard and try to make drum shields and like had a 4-track recorder and would bounce 3 of the tracks to one so that I had 3 more tracks, even though I'm adding tape hiss on tape hiss. The thing was, it was like, you had that drive again. You know what I
Right.
mean? That
Yeah.
excitement of just like, I don't know what's on the other side, but I want to find out, versus being, well, we know how this is going to go. We know it's going to end up. Here's a realistic like ceiling. I was like, dude, burn it all down, man.
And how did you start? Did you start out on guitar or drums or singing? Where was your first sort of breakthrough into live music?
I mean, I'm going to say, I guess it was guitar really when I was in the 5th grade. But what was kind of funny was I'd seen Kiss when I was 5. My mom took me to see him. And I mean,
That
side
seems kind of
stage,
young. That,
it's crazy, dude. It was, I mean, my mom's friend Pam was the manager of the Coliseum in my hometown.
oh,
And
nice.
so, I mean, I was on the side of the stage. My mom like had to go to the restroom. And so she left me with her friend for a second,
Really?
and Kiss like walking, and I'm 5. I'm like, Mom, where's my mom? Gene Simmons like walks by and like looks at me, and he goes, and he has like a Kiss pick on his tongue. And I like
Oh,
froze.
really?
I'm like, and I just grab it. Probably bad for me to do, knowing where, Gene Simmons exploits now, right? But at the
Yeah,
time, we're
exactly.
just like, yeah. And so I saw Kiss and I was like, all right. I didn't understand what was happening. I just knew that whatever that is, like, I want to be that, right?
Right.
Um, then it was, then my mom told me, music, obviously I knew it was music, but she's like, they make their own songs and this and this. I'm like, I want to do that. And then I started crying one day because I said, Mom, but I don't want to leave you because then I have to shrink myself to be inside a radio. Like, I didn't understand that, like, they just play it on airwaves, right?
Yeah,
So there was
exactly.
that whole dilemma. Um, and then I came across Guns N' Roses in the 5th grade, and I had loved Axl's voice and I loved Slash's guitar playing, right? But I hadn't played an instrument yet at the time, other than piano. Just kind of messing around with stuff, and air drumming, of course. And I would sit on my mom's trunk of her T-Bird and like bend her antenna, pretending I was like Peter Criss and stuff, and singing.
Nice.
um, and I saw Duff in Guns, and I was like, oh, 4 strings, just playing, whatever, looks kind of simple. I want his job because I never wanted to be a frontman. I just wanted to
Okay.
kind of lay back and be cool. Nikki Sixx, Gene Simmons, like, duh, just in the background, don't really look at me, right?
Yeah.
But when I started writing songs, and I was like, oh, that cool sound is or I wanted to write songs. That cool sound is an electric guitar. Oh, well, then I got to be a guitar player. So my parents were like, play classical. And if you play classical, maybe we'll get you an electric. So I said, bring it, buddy. So I spent my 5th grade summer learning all the finger picking, learning flamenco style
Oh,
classical guitar,
nice.
right? And I was like, all right, where's my electric? Come on, suckers. So my dad handed me down his Les Paul, which I still use
Ooh,
to this day.
nice.
Yeah, which was massive for me. I'm Les Paul and a Marshall, like in 5th grade. I'm like, dude, I'm a
Yeah,
jam.
that's huge.
Yeah, but I still wanted to be in the background, and it wasn't until I think probably like my sophomore year in high school where we were in bands, and no one could sing because we're all going through puberty, like maybe freshman year, right? Our voices are everywhere,
Yeah.
but we had a party that we were supposed to play, and I was like, this is my moment. And our singer quit like that day, like
Oh,
after school. And
really?
I was like, backyard parties were the jam in our day, right? So I'm like, dude, you know what? We're playing that show. I will get on that mic and sing. Like, I don't care what happens.
And
And
had
so I
you
went.
sung before?
I mean, I would sing like to myself and writing stuff,
Yeah.
but never in front of people. I think maybe
Really?
like karaoke at like my dad's company summer, water park family party or something, right?
Yeah.
In 6th grade, but never actually formally like, all right, here we go. And we played like Alice in Chains and Metallica and like Lenny Kravitz, Spin Doctors. It's like the weirdest mix, dude. But we went for it. And then I realized, you know what? I think I need to sing now because it came to me naturally. I was able to do it. And for me being so driven, I was like, if I'm singer and guitar player, half the band is never going to quit on me.
Right. There you go.
Right. So I was like,
Exactly.
bring it on, dude. And then I ran across Nine Inch Nails, and Trent and the way he did stuff just changed it for me, because then I was like, I don't need anybody to create. Not that I didn't want to. I was just like, in a pinch, you mean I don't need to have a band to like get my fix of creativity? So having a 4-track and a drum machine, I was like, dude, I never came out of like the basement, right? I didn't go to any parties. I didn't hang out. It was like Friday night, I'd get home and just lock up, dude, and just woodshed and write songs and drum machines and come out, Sunday night trying to get ready for school, right? Here we go, dude.
And was Never Enough, was that your first sort of like professional band?
Yeah, you know what? Wow, it's awesome that you figured that out. I was in a band before that called Lila, and we had a developmental deal with Capitol Records, and we were on Warped tour for years on end. Kevin Lyman, thanks, bro, put us on religiously. Really wanted to help break our band, but that was the first time I had a walk with the business and realized how cruel the business can be. A record never saw the light of day. We worked with Steve Kravac, who produced MXPX and Blink 182, who both had huge hits at the time. And we had come out with a couple other bands that were gonna like supposed to explode too. And well, they all got the love and we did it.
And how old were you then?
I must have been like 17 or 18.
Oh, okay.
And Dave Navarro was coming out and doing his TV show, and his manager took over the president of Capitol Records. So basically everything went into Dave, which I mean, I don't blame him. And then whatever was left went to the bands that they threw on the wall. If it sticks, that band will survive. And we just didn't stick and survive, right? So, we were just kind of like, what do we do, right? Which is a bummer, but it was a good thing for me to go through, because it also did lead me to working with Keith and Trevor and Never Enough, which they were in one of my favorite bands, 18 Visions. And they had just come off being in, with their record on Epic Records, which I thought was just like one of my favorite records. And so I would have never been in the position to work with them had I not gone through some of that. And that was probably, honestly, one of my favorite things to do musically up until that point, for sure. Because I mean, it's crazy when you're working with a band who you're like, they're a couple years older than you, but like you're crazy fans of them. You're like, dude, like I would open magazines just to like watch you guys, right? Like, what are they up to? I got to be like them. And Keith really put the screws to me as far as helping me as a vocalist, which was great. And man, that was a real bummer too, because we had all the juice going into it. We were signed to a label, Koch, that changed to E1, and we kind of fell through the cracks because our release date kept getting pushed back. And I mean, we were set up to do some cool stuff, man. I mean, at least within our scene, with their following, with Epic Records, the people that had supported me through the Capitol stuff, it was like everyone wanted to see that band's record blow up. And we were going to have a couple whacks at it too. That's also when I got to meet Bo Hill, who was the co-founder of Interscope Records, produced, Rat, Eric Clapton, Alice Cooper, all those cats, who we now call Uncle Bo, because he became my production mentor and is still in my life to this day. So there's a lot of stuff around Never Enough that came out of that just really kind of it's almost like everything had to play its little part, right? To get me to where I'm at now. And it was just a much longer journey for me than others. But at the same time, it's like I've had a way longer journey than others that have kind of had like a bigger one, but maybe tinier one too. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still hanging on.
And it went from Never Enough into Murder FM. And again, yes, a band that, you're like right off the start, you hit it hard, right? Like your first show was with the Used, opening for the Used, was it not?
It was, man. And it was huge. I mean, we had a good run there too, because of all the setup work from Never Enough. It was like the Used, Korn, I think Deftones after that, Five Finger Death Punch, Rob Zombie. I mean, we were crushing it. And we had a few independent releases. We released a couple EPs. We were signed with Glaston Records out from the UK that led to 2 UK top 40s on their MTV called Scuzz TV. So again, man, it was this thing of like we're going up, we're going up, it's gonna happen. We got into this deal with a label off an imprint on Sony. And then we were on tour again. I think it was Rob Zombie, Drowning Pool. I mean, anything had PE, anything that was great for our scene at that time. It's like we were in, and then I ran straight into a wall in my personal life. Had a divorce happening, and at that point, I'm a kid turning into a man, but I'm a father, and I've got an 18-month-old son who is my world to this day. And I was like, I don't know that I can battle both of these things at the same time, right? Like fight these fights, because being in the business, it's a fight, right?
Right.
And so I just kind of had to gracefully bow out, because my son was and still is the most important thing to me. The only difference now is that like it's he and I, and he's 6 years old, and so it's a little different to manage life. You know
Right.
what I mean? I had to learn the ropes, I guess. Does that make sense? To be able
Yeah.
to be comfortable to jump back in, right?
Right.
So I mean, I totally walked away after Murder FM from music, for my own music, for about 2 years. I'd say I didn't write anything. I would work with people and I'd help people do their stuff. And but other than that, because it was the only thing that I knew and the only way I knew how to survive and create, put food on the table for my son. But other than that, it was like I'd get in my car and I'd listen to like podcasts. I'd do anything but listen to music. But it ended up being a great reset, because when I got the bug again, it was because of my son. He was playing drums, like on his little drum set. He must have been like 3.5, 4. And he's like, Daddy, play with me. And I'm like, what? He's like, get your guitar. I'm like, okay. So I start playing. I mean, we used to have like, growing up, there was instruments everywhere, littered with music everywhere. Like if you walked into my house, you wouldn't even know I played music, because I was so like, right?
Right.
It was like, oh, that
Right.
must just be his hobby guitar next to the fireplace or something. There was no posters, there's no jamming music, like there's no, just different. And I was like, all right, dude, I had to like kind of dust it off and tune it, and started playing along. And I realized he had never seen that side of his dad.
Right.
Other than shows, I mean, he went to when he was like a year old, but you're like, how's he gonna remember that? So I was
Yeah.
like, you know what, let's do this again. But he reconnected me to that exciting part of just like loving it for the sake of loving it, and having zero other motive
Right.
in doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it got me pumped again. And then not hearing music for a couple years was like, other than I would listen to maybe my old stuff, right? I would go back and listen to Kiss and Guns, because it's just like a trip down memory lane, right? To me, music is the soundtrack to our lives. So, I mean, if I listen to music, I'd listen to something old, because it would remind me of a less difficult time in life. When life was
Yep.
easy, when the biggest thing I had to figure out was, will I have enough time tonight to learn the tapping solo to One from Metallica, right? So, and get Whataburger with my friends or something. So that was
Right.
it. And I hadn't heard so much new stuff that I was like, whoa. It was almost like I took a deep dive. And then in taking the deep dive, you're like, oh, this is what's out there. This is what people's listening to. Oh my God. Like I am excited again, because I'm like mad scientist. I love producing. I'm like, I can get all these new plugins, do all these crazy new things, try all these new sounds. Then it was like new again. I can write different. I can do different things. I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to, lose 20, 30 pounds. I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to like just reinvent myself, because I felt like a different person. I was like, dude, it's like anything before that time was like an alternate lifetime. That is not a Norman that I remember, but I remember this Norman, right? So it was this weird thing, man. And to get back in, it's been fun. And so I'm just so grateful to be able to do it now.
Yeah. And like you say, your son reconnected you with music. And did you ever think about the fact that, you growing up with music, that was such a big part of your life? And now all of a sudden with your son, you weren't giving that to him. He didn't have that. He didn't have that music to kind of inspire him. So did you ever think sort of about that angle, about now you're giving your son this music and this inspiration that you had when you were that age?
Oh yeah, totally. And what's funny is I'll see him walk around the house, and he'll be like, he's like playing with like his little Lego Ninjagos. I mean, they're actually right here in front of me, right? And he'll be like, he'll be having a battle and he's like like making songs and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? He's like, I'm writing a battle song. I'm like, whoa, all right. But it's funny to see him naturally have it. I think if he didn't naturally have it, I might have like just kind of shied away from it. But to see, it's like when you do something and you're experiencing something, like, you know, and I was like, whoa, he's got the bug just like I do.
Right.
That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to push this on him. Like, he's like, he loves this. He loves banging away on drums. He loves piano. He loves writing lyrics. He's like always bopping his head to something. And I'm like, he'll walk around the house. And I'm like, dude, this rules.
That's awesome. And like, it's in your family, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I
It's in
told
your
you, man, it's
blood.
just that thing. You try and walk away, and you're like, man, this is gonna be like, this is like the one thing in my life that just like, no matter what I do, I will be attached to it one way or the other. I feel like,
Right.
you know, music made me.
Yeah,
Huh?
there you go.
See what I did there?
Exactly. We use the title. We use the title.
I didn't even plan that.
Yeah, exactly. And so now you have the foundation as well
Yeah,
that you're giving
yeah.
back.
The Sound Foundation. And
Yeah.
what I love about it is that it's become bigger than me. You know, the players that are involved: Johnny Kelly from Typo Negative, CJ from Johnny and Paul, my drummer Michelle, DC, a wonderful vocal coach. I mean, literally, we have been, now our thing is to help artists. A real big thing is helping 18 and over artists, and reason being 18 and over is like, I remember being there with my bands, but like something was missing. And I'm like, man, if we're like artist consultation, artist development, where it's like, you're not at that level to need a manager yet, but you do need someone to bounce things off of, right? To help, hey, what would be best for our band? Because there's not a one size fits all for everybody. You can't just be like, well, learn your instrument and be the greatest at your instrument and you'll succeed in the music business. Like, have you heard Kurt Cobain sing and play guitar? Like, no offense, he's not really great at either one of them, right? But Kurt was Kurt, and Kurt unlocked Kurt that touched everybody one way or the other, right? Like, if you didn't like it, you still knew Nirvana, right? They made such an impact. There's so many artists that, right? And that is our thing, you know, that one, I'm like, we got to give back some of that. And we've got to use the positive side of stuff that we have to be able to help others reach their goals. We work with a lot of vocalists that come in and work with DC that they're singers and they're singers in bands, but they're killing themselves on tour. You know, dude, how do I keep, you know, and there's stuff like that. That's what I mean. You know, I wish someone had told me at, 25 when I'm every night, oh, do this. You're like, great. So that's what I mean by there's no guidance once you get to a certain age. Everyone's kind of like, I don't need help. You're like,
Right.
that's probably when we need the most help, because you need to keep fine tuning what you're doing. You need to fine tuning when you're touring, fine tuning when you're doing business, fine tuning when you're seeking investment. And then you're like, okay, this is what we've made investment wise for our band. How do we allocate this properly to best help our band and our business model? And what's our brand? And why is our social media not kick in? And you're like, well, because you don't understand your brand. You're just thinking that you post something and everyone will love it. And there's all these things that you're like, man, I don't even play music now. Like, I just do business because none of that matters, right? And that's what I mean by that's some of that you have to just, there's more to dig into when someone is kind of already on the move with it, you know?
Right. And now that you know so much, you've kind of had so much heartbreak throughout your professional career of, riding those highs and then all of a sudden those lows and those highs and those lows. So coming into this project, As Strange as Angels, are you more comfortable within yourself and comfortable with not putting pressure on yourself and not having to necessarily ride those highs and lows, but just kind of keep it consistent and not have too much expectations going into it?
Yes, totally. You know what? It's the first project that I have literally just been like, F it. Let's just see what happens.
And it must feel pretty good.
It does, because having no expectations, I don't have to temper expectations. Having no expectations, you don't feel like you failed. And that doesn't mean that we don't work hard and that we don't care, but it's just kind of like, I see something move and I go, oh, okay, maybe that's the path for us to go. And I think a lot of times you make the blueprint and you think that it has to fit in there. And anytime it falls out, instead of seeing it as like a hello, just evolve into this and this will work for you guys, I choose to like fight it, right? You know what I mean? You choose to be like, no, but it has to be this way. And so that's been really fun, like, especially with the music, you know, because there's been no real, I want to do this. I mean, and it started as a solo project, but it wasn't really that. It was just like, I want to create music and I don't want to have parameters put on me because I'm excited right now. You know, I want to be like Prince or something, right? I can write an acoustic song, I can write a pop song. I will never, I'm just going on the record now, nearly be as cool or have a speck of the talent that Prince has. So I want to make sure no one thinks I'm comparing myself. But what I'm saying is that model, you know what I mean? You know, even like, it still sounds silly too, like a Bruno Mars, right? Like every song you hear from the dude is different. I wanted that freedom to be able to be like, maybe I just play a kazoo and a kick drum on this song. I don't know. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go right back to the stuff that I love, which is heavy rock and big choruses. But if it does get that way, it's going to be that way because that's the way it just flowed out. Not like saying, I have to create this. This is what I want. This is what I do. And this is the only thing that I will do. So at the time when I started the project, just how the name came out as Strange as Angels, I was like, I'm a huge Cure fan, for one. And I felt like the name didn't lead itself to any sort of musical connotation. Like you hear the name and you don't know what the band is going to sound like. You really don't, not to me, you know, and I didn't want to call it Norman Matthew because it was like, I didn't really want it to be like a solo project like Nine Inch Nails. They're like, no, man, it takes people to make the magic happen. But I also didn't want to feel like if I had a band in place, I have to write for a drummer, I have to write for a guitar player. It's like, I just want to write for the song. And that's something that I never really did because I had to feel like I had to write to just what was already in there. You know what I mean? These are the positions. So there has to be a part for everyone that has this position.
And so is it important for you now moving forward as we sort of come out of this state we're in and get more into touring and your music gets out there more? Is it important for you to keep that control and not get into the same situation you were before and all of a sudden a record label comes in and says, you know, we want to do this with you, but you got to do it this way and do it on our timeline and everything? You know, are you focused on just kind of doing it your way?
That's a scary part, right? Because you're like, I think I am. I mean, we all want to get the brass ring at a certain point because we don't want to have to write the checks that you have to write when you're independent to make it happen. That's that hustle that I don't like, right? I'm like, I like the creative. So it's great to have a team to be like, let me get this straight. All I have to do is crank out the creative, be where I need to be, and do what's asked of me, and you'll handle everything else. I'm in, right? But at the same time, having my son, like being a father is number one. It's like, if it's going to take away from anything in his life, then I don't know how interested it's going to be unless it can somehow pay itself back to enriching my son's life in exchange. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for
You know, like,
sure.
hey, man, I got this really cool opportunity, so I've got to eat it for 13 months on the road or something. But at the back end of that, that's going to be able to change the game for the things that I can do and provide for him. Then you're like, all right, I'm in. You know, otherwise it's kind of like, I think we're just gonna just, again, man, see where it takes us. What knocks on our door, we'll answer and see if we dig it. And that's really cool to have come to that point in my musical career, where it isn't just about like being the biggest, raddest, coolest, most money making, most popular one. You're like, I don't even care. Like, if I can write some stuff and then 50 people connect with those lyrics and be like, dude, that song changed it for me, that's almost more of a success to me, because I'm like, wow, I never thought I could do that. So to me, I'm like, well, you can like make a business happen, right? But to really impact someone, I feel like is such a bigger thing.
We'll look forward to more new music. The Curse is just making its rounds out there. It's getting a lot of great press.
It is, man. Again, I don't know what we've done right, but we've done something right and different that is just, it's moving. Things are moving for us and it's fantastic. So the Curse is the first of a bunch of new material that we've already recorded and have set up. But with the way the world is, you know, I had always thought of the idea of, man, we should record a record. So there's continuity, right? And thematically it makes sense, but let's release like a song a month, like years back. I'm not saying, oh, I thought of this before everybody else, but I was like, that would be kind of cool because one, I'm like, keeps people engaged. You keep popping something out. You don't work a single at radio at the same typical way. And sometimes the freedom I do love of that is like, why don't we just put this up today, Michelle? Like for fun.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that because I remember being, again, in my mom's basement, record something on a cassette and be like, Mom, can I walk down to Walgreens and buy some cassettes? Because I want to make a bunch of copies for my friends right now, right? And I'd buy the little cheap ones that came like in a long piece of plastic. They didn't even have cases, right?
Yeah.
You get them for like $5 for like 99 cents or something, right? It's just all tape hisks. Like, dude, you guys got to hear my new song. But I remember that feeling. And so there's moments like that. And I would imagine as our fan base grows, as it's growing now, I'll probably like flex that muscle now and again, like just for fun. Like, you know what? This song has no agenda, no campaign, no anything, because I can. This is the one time I'm just going to be like, boop, send, y'all check out this new song. You know what I mean? Just because I want to see what someone would think of it,
Exactly. That's awesome. Well, we'll look forward to it. And
thank you, sir.
I could talk all day with you, but I know you have studio commitments and other stuff going on. So
thank you, man. I appreciate that, dude. You have a wonderful one, man. Thank you so much. All right, man. Have a good one, bud.
Okay.
Peace.
See ya. Thank you guys so much once again for listening. We really appreciate the support. And you know what? We couldn't do it without you. We couldn't come back each and every week without you sharing, liking, subscribing, following on whatever streaming service you're listening on. So please keep doing that. Keep telling your friends to tune in and listen, and we'll be back with new conversations every week. Until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Music Made Me podcast.